BS-Free Witchcraft is a production of the Nerd and Tie Podcast Network. Nerd and Tie produces podcasts ranging from actual play to true crime, and you can find more at nerdandtie.com or join our Discord by going to nerdandtie.com/Discord.
I am interested in creating wealth alchemy. I am a wealth alchemist. I am the wealth witch. I am not the money queen, okay? For me, I am only interested in helping you transmute deep-seated beliefs. I am only interested in helping you get to the root of your money issues.
People do spiral because they're ready to let go of the emotional blocks that are holding them back. When we're able to let go of blockages such as shame, guilt, fear, paralysis, blocks that prevent us from being vulnerable, blocks that prevent us from feeling deep joy or deep love. When we're able to let go of those blocks, anything is possible.
I am actually launching a course right now, both an online and in-person version called Mystic Mindset, Ritual and Spell for the Modern Witch. And this is the first class. I'm doing 4 live classes during this course on Facebook. This is the first half of the first class of this series. If you have not read this book, Witch, by Lisa Lister, go run out and get it. It's amazing. It's some of the best work that I've read recently on this topic.
Welcome to BS-Free Witchcraft. I'm your host, Trey Dorn, and this is your monthly guide to the modern witchcraft movement, minus a lot of the usual BS. And this last month has had me going down a new age rabbit hole, which is just, it's been wild, guys. Oh my God.
Lisa Lister wrote the best thing you'd ever read?
What you just heard before I started talking was some clips that I will contextualize briefly, but I have to take you to the beginning of this story. I have to take you to the point in which to which this whole adventure started. Back at the beginning of March, I got an email in my inbox through the BS for Witchcraft contact form from someone named Allie. And it was subject, "The Wealth Witch wants to podcast with you." This is what they wrote me. "Hi Trey, my name is Allie, and I'm reaching out on behalf of the talented Leah Steele. Leah is known as the Wealth Witch. Her purpose is to inspire and empower millions of people to wake up, repattern their wealth programming, and reclaim their divine right to be wealthy," in all caps, "in all areas of their lives. Leah has a book coming out at the beginning of April titled Wealth Academy, Repattern Your Wealth Programming and Take Control of Your Financial Destiny Because Being Broke is Boring." That is the full title. "Leah is very interested in being a remote guest speaker on your podcast as she lives full-time in Bali, Indonesia. I think that she would be a great guest for BS-Free Witch Podcast. And I'd love to get her connected with you because Leah is not a typical love and light kind of witch. She's an advocate for massive self-responsibility and self-accountability in all things. If you're looking for no BS, she has no problem giving it to you straight. Would you be able to send me more information about what you are looking for in a guest speaker or how we can schedule a call? I appreciate any assistance you can provide. Thanks, Allie." Yeah. Yeah. I am 100% certain that Allie, whose last name I'm choosing to omit because she appears to be a real human being, and I'm not going to be mean. I don't think Allie's ever listened to a single episode of this show. The big tip-off was calling it the BS-Free Witch Podcast and not BS-Free Witchcraft. because I feel like that would imply that I'm the BS-free witch if that was the name of the show, but I'm not. I'm just Trey, and we're magicians, and again, people who listen to a show usually know what it's called. You can understand by reaction to getting this email. I don't know how much you people know about me, but the very BS that I talk about is what she spouts. You see, Allie in this email sent me a list of links about Leah Steele, the person she was representing, and I decided to do some digging. Now I'm going to tell you, I dug up so much on this person. I literally know this Leah Steele person's entire life front to back, and I'm not going to disclose most of it because some of it is just mean. It's personal. There's a surprising anecdote involving a 90s one-hit wonder, but that's all unimportant because what Leah Steele is selling at her website is her wealth witch stuff. All right? And we are talking a wide range of pricing, anywhere from the lowest price thing for $44. She has a class, but she has like sessions and things like that range into the thousands and thousands of dollars. Like, she is charging people money for wealth alchemy services. And I want you to just wrap your head around that for a minute. On her website, what she sells is she takes your money to teach you how to make more money using magic. Now, look, I know every single one of us who's a witch has tried some sort of wealth spell down the line. But I think any reasonable witch listening to this show is going to be of the opinion that spending $44 on a spell for money, like if you are at a point where you're trying to cast spells to get money, you're not going to spend $44. You need that $44. I am firmly... It's the fact that she came into this corner of the web just dumbfounded me. I don't think that, and like I said, I've done a lot of research. I don't think that she's stepped that much into the modern witchcraft movement. Listeners of this show, we are more of the dirt in our fingernails, brick in our hand kind of witches, usually. At least that's the kind of witch that I am. We are not, this is so deeply ingrained in the New Age movement, that it's just crazy. And if you follow me on social media, on Tumblr, or Facebook, you may have seen, I don't think I posted about Facebook, but I posted about this a lot on Tumblr. I posted about it a bunch on the Nerd and Tide Discord, just to get reactions. This isn't going to be surprising, but I had this debate going. Like, I could have brought this woman on my show. Like, I could have played along and brought this woman onto BS Free Witchcraft, but I stopped myself from that impulse because I don't want to just bring someone on the show to completely rip them apart, because A, it's mean, and B, I can just rip them apart without having to make them feel personally humiliated or embarrassed. I'm just saying. But I considered it for about 5 minutes, and then I realized that the one thing I would want to do if I brought her onto the show, because part of this request included information about a book. It's talking about having a new book coming out with a ridiculously long title. And so my thought is that if I can get a review copy of this book, if I can read this book, I'd be willing to bring her on the show. And then I would just ask her about the book. I wouldn't, because I'm going to talk about the ethical implications of charging someone $4,000 for magic work. We're going to talk about that for sure at some point, maybe next episode, actually. I just wanted to, I would just talk to her about the contents of the book, right? That's what I decided. So with that in mind, I wrote a response. And I'll admit, I fib a little in this because when I wrote this, I had already researched the crap out of her and listened to her appearance on a tennis podcast that they sent me for some reason. Anyway, so this is how I responded. Hi, Allie. I'm unfamiliar with Ms. Steele, but I may be interested in having her on the show. You mentioned she has a book coming out fairly soon. If this appearance is intended to promote the book, I'd ask that I be provided with a review copy ahead of time. I'm admittedly picky about what we promote on the show, and I'd want to know what I'm getting into. Trey Dorn. I thought that was a reasonable ask. I didn't think that was that much. If you want to do a book promotion on my show, I should read the book. That's normal. Now, I don't know, if she was expecting a podcast to be so desperate for guests that they would bring someone on to promote a book without reading it. But this is the response I got from Allie. Hi, Trey. Thanks for the quick response. Her appearance isn't for book promotion, rather to meet with like-minded people. Would you like to set up a call with her? Thanks, Allie. Now, I don't know what to do with this. I didn't know what to do with this. She emailed me saying that Leah Steele had a new book coming out in April, and she was trying to book her on my podcast. And at this point, I'm starting to wonder if they think I'm an idiot. I'm wondering, how gullible do they think I am? Am I so desperate for content that I would just bring on anybody and let them, be promoted on my platform as they have a book coming out with no idea about the contents of that book? So I responded again. I was polite, but not as nice this time. Hey, Allie. To be frank, you're asking if I'm interested in having Ms. Steele on the show just as her book is coming out. You can say this isn't for book promotion, but even if she never mentions it, it promotes her to my audience just as it releases. It honestly makes me feel a bit wary of this conversation if you're trying to pretend that's not what this is. I take very seriously who and what I even appear to endorse on the show, and without knowing more, it's just a no-go. I wish Ms. Steele the best of luck in her endeavors. Trey Dorn. I obviously never got a response after that, but I kind of was putting my foot down. Again, I could have just tricked her to come on the show, but I didn't because I'm not a dick. It's just almost insulting. It's like they wanted to use the book to hype her up, but didn't want to actually give me a copy of the book. Now, I'm assuming this is going to be self-published because, a month before release, review copies would be available for any reasonable book. I get, at the Nerd and Tie Network, I occasionally get sent, not for Witchcraft books, but review copies of things I never wanted to see 2 or 3 months before they come out, because that's how things work. We don't review stuff that get sent to us because that's not the kind of show we are. It's not, that's a convention news podcast, and it's a, stuff. We're not going to review your indie comic, but they send it to us all the time. So I don't think asking for a review copy is unreasonable when someone says, hey, I've got a book coming out. But that also, though, now I can't have this book. They don't want me to have this book. And that was driving me nuts. So I went to her website and found out that if you sign up for her mailing list, you get a preview chapter. So, of course I did. Of course that's what I did. I have 20 email addresses from random things. So I took an email account that used to be a useful thing for a comic that doesn't exist anymore. And I used that email account with the name associated with one of the characters from that comic, and I signed up for the mailing list. I'm still getting emails. This is great. But I signed up, and I got the preview chapter, and I guess it's a chapter. This is certainly words put together in the forms of sentences and paragraphs. Now, I'm not going to read this whole thing to you because it's frankly a little too long, and I'm not going to record her audiobook for her unless you feel like paying me. I will 100% record an audiobook if someone pays me enough money. I don't know what that rate is yet, but my rate goes up with the more of the bullshit that's in the thing that I'm reading. I'm just saying. The excerpt they give is titled "The Spiral," and it really starts with an anecdote that she was telling set in October 2017, and this is we start out with in the middle of the second paragraph of what she sent is. Alexa reached out to me a couple of weeks before the retreat and told me that a well-known Australian sex wizard was going to be in the United States, and she wanted to invite him to co-facilitate with us at the retreat. That is a sentence that I just read, and Australian sex wizard, by the way, is totally going to be the name of my Midnight Oil cover band. Just saying, our version of Bets Are Burning is going to be, amazing. Back to whatever this is. I immediately had massive resistance. I mean, a man co-facilitating at a women's retreat where we were going to be getting deeply vulnerable with each other and discussing extremely sensitive and personal things? It was a hell no from me, but Alexa asks me to trust her. It felt like some kind of push from the divine, capital T, capital D, far outside my comfort zone, so I said yes. The turning point. And yeah, it's just the turning point with just its own line, not in a header font or anything, but maybe it's in an email. Enter Dane Thomas, creator of The Spiral, into my life. Period. And things were never the same again. Period. I'll take this opportunity to say that meeting Dane was a turning point and trajectory shift. He took me through and introduced me to the most spiritually and emotionally transformational processes I have experienced in my life to date. There's more, but I think it's time that we talk about Dane Thomas, Australian sex wizard.
Australian sex wizard.
These are words I just said. You see, I couldn't read Leah Steele's book, but I could read Dane Thomas's book.
Spiral is a 7-step clearing process. It goes through each and every area of your life, from your physical body to your social life, to your personal power, to your intimate connections and relationships, to your life path, to your mentality and the way you think, and all the way up to your life purpose and your spirituality. It's not uncommon to have physiological changes, postural changes, more ability to look people in the eye, heart opening, more able to feel your emotions. And it's very common to start noticing big improvements in key areas of your life very, very quickly.
So, the spiral is Dane Thomas's process. And I use process in big air quotes, guys. This guy has figured it out. You see, people like Leah Steele go out there and they take advantage of people by getting them to spend exorbitant amount of money on services effectively as a personal guru. She'll say she's not a personal guru, but it's what she's trying to be. All right, let's not pretend otherwise or kid ourselves. What Dane Thomas does is he offers courses to train other people to be practitioners of the spiral. He's a guru for gurus. It's amazing. He created a system called the spiral, and then he certifies other people to sell the spiral to other people. It's like multi-level marketing for New Agers, to paraphrase my friend Lee. The spiral sounds really cool when you talk about it in vague terms. About emotional clearing, which is a term so difficult to find a clear, 5-word definition of. It's pure nonsense. And I read Clearing Your Shit, the book by Dane Thomas, and it is... The spiral process is just, I think I can best describe it as if you took some Psych 101 stuff and you added in yoga and a bunch of other culturally appropriated things. It's not a revolutionary thing. And so these spiral practitioners, will do this emotional clearing with you. And you know what? It could be helpful for some people in the sense that it's the parts that are using basic psychology are helpful for people, but instead of spending money on a therapist, which, yeah, that's not cheap, but instead of spending, all that money that might be at least covered under some insurance, you could instead spend thousands of dollars, because this is literally thousands of dollars to have a session with someone like Leah Steele. Remotely. Thousands of dollars from someone to do this who's completely unlicensed. No, you could get it from an unlicensed therapist. Holy crap. Just think about that for 2 seconds. I know that the mental health profession has some, not everybody in it is perfect, but the fact is that there is some sort of licensing and certification and degrees and and here on BS Free Witchcraft we stand good mental health professionals. That's why I'm alive and functional today. It's thanks to extensive therapy. So, yeah. This is nuts, right, guys? I'm not crazy. This is ridiculous. And I guess that's when we start approaching the point of this episode. Because there is one. It's not just hey, look at these loonies. Look at them. Just look at them. Look at them. My God, look at them. No, it's it's to remind you of what we're dealing with. There are people who co-opt the witchcraft movement who are witches by definition, because we have a very broad definition of witches. I mean, Dane Thomas doesn't call himself a witch. He's just kind of a creepy douchebag who wrote some weird sex books and now created a fundamentally damaging thing called The Spiral that takes people's money for really substandard psychological help when they'd be much better off going to a therapist and working through their issues in a professional manner. But, you know, that's not as funny. The fact is, we have all of these so-called would-be gurus, coaches, whatever you want to call them. These self-proclaimed spiritual leaders who are going to be out there taking money from people who just don't know better. And they're doing it in the name of witchcraft. So they're getting grouped in with people like you and me from outsiders. And that's not great. And before anyone's out there has a chance to say to me, what's the harm? She's just recommending shitty books. Because she is. I used that clip at the beginning for a reason, because smart people would have known it was not great. She's recommending shitty books and separating suckers from their money. Like, no one's going to spend $4,000 who doesn't have $4,000 to lose. And I'll point at that $44 she's trying to take for people who, don't have a lot of money. But before you say that, like, people, aren't, what's the harm? What's the harm? And, well, I want to point out something that Leah Steele said on one of her most recent live streams / YouTube videos. And I know a lot of people like archive binge on the show, so I just want to remind you that this episode came out in March 2020, in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. I'm literally sheltering in place. So if you're listening to this a couple of years down the road, that's the context.
So the first thing that I want to say, though, is that my heart goes out to anyone that is sick with this virus. And my heart goes out to anyone who has lost somebody and somebody has died from this virus. Catherine's like, oh, here we go. So, and my heart is aching for the cities that are in these crazy states of panic. I feel a lot of compassion for the people that are in these sort of nucleus, that like in these nucleuses of fear. Like, that's what I feel like. It's like I can feel into what's happening in the world, and I don't mean this to sound like super woo, but I can't. I mean, it's like, I can feel like when I feel into like what it would feel like to be in Italy right now, in parts of Italy right now, and what it would feel like even to be in America or in London. Like, we're just not experiencing that here in Bali, and I'm so grateful and so thankful for that, and we didn't experience any of that in Kuala Lumpur. So, but I can, living and existing in those types of states of fear is really hard on not just like, it's hard overall, right? On our entire system, on our parasympathetic nervous system, but ultimately that's hard on our immune system. That's hard on our physical bodies. And so my heart goes out to the people that have been forced into self-quarantine, that have been forced into quarantine, that, and people that are separated from their families. I was supposed to be in London this weekend, and I made a decision not to go to London. I was going for something that was quite important to me also. I was going for an initiation, and I made the decision to postpone my trip because I was concerned about being apart from my family. I didn't want to get separated from my family, and I didn't know what was going to happen in the world. And so as soon as I made that decision not to go, I felt so much better. And then like the pandemonia began. And so I definitely was feeling like so much better, like about the decision that I made. So my heart goes out to people that are separated from their families. My heart goes out to just, anyone that is suffering negative consequences as a result of this announced pandemic. And so I'm going to be really careful to use that word and that term. I'm going to be saying announced pandemic because personally, I do not buy into the fact that this is a pandemic.
So that is Leah Steele. Leah Steele, who reached out to me in a live stream on a YouTube video that you can go find, saying she doesn't believe that the ongoing coronavirus pandemic at the time of recording is a real pandemic. She goes on to clarify that she's not a doctor and that she's not a scientist qualified to speak on the topic, and that she hasn't been briefed directly personally by scientists, but she is saying to people who appear to trust her and listen to her that we're not living in a pandemic. Just let that sit with you for a second. So no, these people are not harmless. These people are incredibly harmful. That's I think that's all the time I want to spend talking about this terrible, terrible group of people. They're out there though, and I think people need to remember that. A topic we touched on a little bit in this episode was the idea of using, spending money on witchcraft and paying someone for spell work. And the ethics and the complicated situation, because that's not a black and white question. I think that's going to be a whole other episode that we're going to dive into. Because I really don't want to use these people as the examples. I mean, there'll be a example, but it's a way more complicated topic. Woof. Thank you guys for sitting through this with me this month. I know we kind of were a little different this month's episode, but hopefully I entertained you. At least I shined a light on something that maybe some of you hadn't encountered yet before, and we're going to definitely be talking about this topic more in the following months. Just variations on a theme. It's just nuts. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm, of course, Trey Dorn. You can follow this show on Twitter at TRAEGORN. That's my Twitter handle. You can follow me on Tumblr at TRAEGORN.tumblr.com. And you can follow this show on Facebook at facebook.com/BSFreeWitchcraft. Again, we have a Discord for the podcast network that the Witchcraft is, frankly, the witches have taken over the network Discord. Just go hog wild. It's you can find an invite always at nerdandtie.com/Discord. Whenever we have invites operating, that's where you can go and get that. There are a lot of other shows on the Nerd and Tie network. If you want to go like in a completely different direction than this, why not check out Famicom Dojo? The Famicom Dojo video game podcast is pretty regularly. Sean and Vink go and talk about retro gaming and their pile of shame. It's a fun show with fun guys talking about video games instead of witchcraft. So it's different than this show. That is all for this month, Magicians, and see you guys again next month? I don't know. This is nuts. Who knows? I'm sheltering in place, man. Oof. Maybe you've got good spells for while you're living in effectively quarantine. Let me know. Just let me know. You can always contact me. You can always find the show and more subscription options at nerdandtech.com/bsfreewitchcraft or bsfreewitchcraft.trhonline.com. And we have a contact form that you can click on and send in your questions, your ideas. That's how a lot of these episodes happen. That's how this episode happened technically. But wow. This is the whole thing, man. This is the whole thing.